Well, I think these calves are about ready to get out of this little corral and get a little bit more space. They haven't been balling for a couple of days now. But be that as it may, I still want to add a little bit of an insurance policy to this fence in the form of a 2-strand hot wire, just to make sure that we don't have anybody trying to get back in with the cows. That's the main goal for today, but I'm sure some other things will pop up as well. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. Before we get started on that hot fence though, there is another thing that I wanted to get done today, and that is I need to get these big 6-foot round bales moved into the barn. A few people asked me in the comments why I was pulling hay out of the barn to feed the cows when I've got bales that are sitting outside, and that's a good question. And the reason for that is that the bales that are sitting outside are the big 6-foot bales. They weigh about 1,000 pounds. And the bales that I've got in the barn here are my smaller 4-foot bales that weigh about 500 pounds. I've been saving the big 6-footers for a later time in the year, either when I'm feeding in the round bale feeder there or when I'm taking hay over to the winter pasture. If I was to roll one of these big 6-footers out in the field, I think the cattle would end up wasting a lot of the hay. Even when the calves were out there with them bale grazing, I don't think that they would utilize enough of this, and I just felt like it was better to feed them 500 pounds in the morning and 500 pounds in the evening rather than 1,000 pounds all at once. And I know someone is gonna say, well, you're not wasting the hay because it's good for the ground. It's good for the soil to have them trample that hay into the ground. And I get that, but there is a balance here. I mean, that's a good investment for the future, but I need to be able to feed the cows today. And if they end up stomping a bunch of that hay into the ground, then that really doesn't do me any good. And speaking of the winter pasture, some of you have been asking, when are the cows going to be moved over there, or are we still taking them over there? And the answer is yes, they are going to still go to the winter pasture. Usually we don't move them over there until December. The problem is, or has been in the past, if I move the cows over there and there's not enough grass stocked up for them, they might be fine for a week or two, but then they'll start pushing on fences and looking for feed elsewhere if there's not enough that they have access to. So rather than run fence lines all the time and bring hay over there all the time, it's better to just stock that grass up a little bit more. So my plan was to pull hay out of the wing here until I have enough room to put all 9 of those big bales in here, which I believe I do now. And I was hoping that I was gonna be able to get that done before we got another rainstorm, and that worked out. So let's go ahead and get these things put in the barn. I didn't like the way that bale was riding. I'm gonna try to get another stab on it. Well, that's done. I know round bales can take a little bit of rain, and as you can see, these have. And I mean, mostly that only affects like the outer layer of the bale. But my way of thinking is, if I've got the barn storage, why not use it? I'm using these Gallagher insulated line posts for my corners, and the reason being is that they can take like a little bit of force this way. I might still go ahead and tie this off to the wooden post, because when the ground gets soft, I don't want the force of the wire to pull this out. I'm not sure that it would, but you know, you want to be safe on these kinds of things. All right, well, I think we're all set here. I got this 2-wire hot fence going along 3 sides of this little pasture. I think this is about an acre or 2 acres, I'm not really sure which. We'll call it an acre and a half. And there's not really much for them to eat out here, but I think they'll still appreciate the extra square footage. 2 wires is probably overkill. I think 1 wire would have been plenty. These calves have been trained to hot wire all summer long. And this S100 is definitely overkill. This is gonna really pack a punch, which I'm okay with, because you know, they touch it once, they never touch it again. Got my tester here. I want to turn this on and see just how hot it is. But I want to make sure that Callie is not near the wire when I click it on, because if she gets hit, she might need therapy. We've got just under 10,000 volts on that wire, and that is a hot fence. If you don't understand how electric fence works, I feel like I want to say that voltage won't injure you. It won't hurt you. It's just voltage is very uncomfortable when you touch it. Amperage is what is dangerous and what can actually injure you or injure an animal. These boxes, they put out a lot of voltage, but they don't put out hardly any amperage. So there's no danger of actually like injuring an animal. Well, now that the hot wire is all set and ready to go, I think we can open the gate, let these calves out. My only concern in doing this is that what will probably happen is when I open the gate, they're going to realize that they have access to a new area. They're going to get excited and they're going to run out there, probably towards the cows. I'm a little bit concerned though, because the way the sun is shining right now, I don't think that hot wire is going to be very visible to them. Hopefully they don't just run through it. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And hopefully they see it and remember what those little wires do. You guys just been waiting to do that, huh? You guys are crazy. Well, the excitement's dying down a little bit. You guys could see they really tested that wire, and what I thought before was overkill, now I feel like was probably about right. 2 wires and 10,000 volts. I don't know that I would want any less than that, because they all were just wanting to get through that. But as soon as they touch it, you'd hear a little pop and they would jump back, and that's exactly how we want that to work. I was actually pretty surprised at how much of the calves were trying to eat that sort of dead, dormant grass. I didn't think they'd really fool around with that too much, but I guess, you know, variety is the spice of life, right? So they just wanted something different probably. But everybody's respecting their boundaries, at least for now. And these guys in the bullpen are wondering why they don't get to go out there. And unfortunately they can't, because they need to stay separate. Heifers can start going into heat as young as like 7 to 9 months of age. It's very rare for that to happen, but it can happen. So it's important that I keep this little bull separated out of the main group of calves and just in here with his steer friends. So they're stuck in here, but they got it pretty nice. In addition to giving the calves some more room out here in this little pasture, the other reason why I wanted to make sure that I could get them out of that little corral is that we are due for a storm here in a couple of days, and if they were all cooped up in that small corral while it was raining, I think the mud would get pretty bad in there. And outside of the little corral, we've got this mound of dirt here that I scraped out of there the other day, and then there's another mound back there. So they've got some nice elevated places where they can get out of the mud if that's what they want to do. Well, looks like the cows and the calves have mostly settled down and kind of gone back to things as normal. And I guess that means we can move on to the next job. My plan for tomorrow is to take all of my spare portable panels, put them on my trailer and run them up to the steer pasture and try to come up with some type of a corral that I can use up there to catch them and then load them into my trailer. A lot of people ask me when I finish the bullpen, why don't you just take all these panels that you've got right here and put them up inside of the building here where I want to eventually put the boards? Well, this is why, because I knew that I was going to need these panels to get those steers loaded out of there. I've been taking the round bales up to the steers and been feeding them in the same place, in that nice flat area. I think is going to be a great spot to build this little corral. Not only because it's flat, but also because the steers are used to going there and eating. So what I'd like to do is get the corral set up and then continue to feed them in the corral for the next week or so to get them used to going in there. And then at that point, I'll be able to hopefully catch them somewhat easily and get them in the trailer and get them home. Oh, these ones are heavy, Callie. Well, that looks like a load, and I think we're gonna call it a day. Tomorrow, all this stuff is going out to the steer pasture, and I'm gonna have to try to come up with some kind of a catch corral for those guys. But until then, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.